Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. We are live, and today we've got a fun one. First, this is all the buzz going around, and that's the whole purpose of the live show. You got to be diving into the comments to let us know your perspective on this one, because I think it's pretty crazy. Can a Disney Plus subscription block you from legal action against Disney? And what are the limits on that legal action that can be barred? Anyway, the second topic is going to be Mennonites are making the Amazon their new home. What an interesting development in this crazy chapter of a world. And then third and finally, an isolated tribe in the Pacific worships Americans like they're alien gods. But before we get into it, let me introduce the Pickle Gallery. Sitting in the wing. First, we got our good friend from Just Another Day TV, Ricardo Wright. How you doing, my good buddy? You're muted. We can't hear you.
Bless, man.
Hey.
Happy to be here. You know, I mean, another week.
Prayed a little harder.
Great topics. Another week. Everybody, bless up. Yeah.
Hey, cheers. And of course, we got also hanging with us as always, Silent Destroyer. Silent, how you doing, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. How's everybody doing today?
Good. Hey,
bad.
you're gonna have to really weigh in for us on this Mennonite piece, because they made it all the way from Canada down to South America. So
That should be a very interesting topic. I'm looking forward to
that
talking
seems
about
more
it.
intense than the Oregon Trail. I mean,
Yeah.
the
Should be
pelts you got to
interesting.
get to make it that far. Anyway, so I also got to introduce my co-host, my good friend, the person I can't do it without, David Cunningham. How you doing today?
Oh, doing wonderful. Actually, I'm doing a little bit. I'm a little bit smarter here in the past 30 seconds.
Oh.
So I just looked at your sweatshirt, and I got here earlier today. I'm looking. Oh, why are you wearing an American Horror Story sweatshirt? Who wears that? Then I started to take a little closer look. Oh, it's a bit of it's definitely American.
You know,
You got a real cast of characters
ages
here.
like a fine wine. This is like a couple years old. I'm a big American Horror Story fan as it is, the TV show, but this just emphasizes how it is a reality that we live. And it's the truth in our face is scarier than we're willing to believe. But that being said, let's cast our vote and let them control the country.
Yeah. Well, boy, the DNC thing, crazy.
Ooh.
Crazy.
Doug made it into the studio. He brought his COVID. He was hooking up with Dr. Fauci, got the vid, and made it. He made it. I'm not being hyperbolic.
Believe it or not. I didn't die.
Wow. I was concerned. I was texting a little bit before. I'm like, am I going to see it today? This is weird. You're a fan favorite, and we can't have the show without Doug.
I know.
But, Gergag, you know who we can't have the show without? Ryan.
Ryan in the wing.
People, B-Rizzle, my shizzle here, ready to start the show. Let's go.
So, guys, this first topic is a very interesting one. And, of course, today brings further development. So the story is this. A lady and her husband are dining at a Disney resort. It was Orlando. They're eating at one of the restaurants at Disney, and they make it abundantly clear that she has a peanut allergy. And Disney and the restaurant itself continues to assure them that they have taken the precautions, that there are no issues, there will be no cross-contamination, and you can surely dine with us. As she does, the poor soul happens to pass away because there were nuts in the food, at least some sort of cross-contamination that just ended in tragedy. Now, who wants to go to the happiest place on earth and lose a loved one? Some would hope that there's, I don't know, an avenue of reconciliation when mom doesn't make it back from the Cinderella castle. But turns out, ipso facto, if you have a Disney Plus subscription and you click the I accept button, they bent you over a barrel and you didn't even know it. In the fine print, there is a claim that you have signed away all ability to take Disney to court, and that you forego that right and you are forced to go through arbitration, which, again, Disney, one of the richest entities in the world, can certainly use money to manipulate an arbitration process. So they know the advantage they can have if they can keep you out of a courtroom, keep you out of a jury of your peers who will certainly see the deep pockets of Disney and a dead mom or loved one, and definitely respond in tenfold. A jury would pay you tenfold what an arbitrator would. So we say this because in the fine print, the claim is not only are you signing away anything in this contractual agreement for streaming Disney movies, but you have also agreed that this applies for all legal suits with Disney, period. Insane. So I think I wanted to make the argument, and this very much excited me because I'm like, we need to create the precedent. This needs to go into a courtroom, and a judge needs to just draw the line. A good attorney needs to argue that it is unconscionable that a person who contracted and traded for streaming movies in their own home or at the convenience of mobility, maybe in their car or were at the airport and on the train, wherever, I have contracted to exchange for a movie. It would be unconscionable that in any way was the contracting of physical harm. If there's no anticipation of physical harm coming from streaming anything. So I was excited that we could create a contractual precedent that makes this blind accept all, because again, that's what it is. Yeah. You want to update your iPhone? Accept the new terms. You want to log into Facebook today? Accept the new terms. I beat this dead horse a little too much, but South Park does do the best at satirical education. And a long time ago, South Park already kind of brushed or dissected this topic with the human centipede. In the story, in the South Park episode, it was mocking how we all just blindly accept every iOS update. At the time, it was iPods. Okay, so we were accepting that my iPod update, I accept whatever the terms are. Well, in the show, in the fine print, and this was also at the time that the Human Centipede movie came out and it was a big craze, but it said in the fine print, you agree to be a part of the trial for the human centipede, which was the human centipede, 3 humans sewn together, and an iPad taped on the forehead of the front guy. So it was a great satirical way of mocking how a strong, zealous counsel could truly defeat those contractual agreements by proving as a society nobody knows what they're contracting for, and it has become a fabric of our society to accept those just so we can get the service or utility of the thing we already bought. Like, I'm sitting here with an iPad or an iPod. You're telling me I have to hit accept just to use it or just to update it? It's again, unconscionable to expect the layman to read a 5,000-page contract to get their iOS update, to access Instagram today, whatever it may be. So, one, I don't have much empathy or acceptance for these deep clauses in blind I accept clicks. But the development in the story that comes today is that Disney, Disney's a good guy. Disney's a good guy. And there's blowback. Could you believe the public's got a little bit of blowback finding out that watching Pinocchio stops me from suing you when you kill my mom? So because of the blowback, we're gonna try to correct this wrong. We're going to forego arbitration and let it go to court, AKA we'll just settle and pay you off and whatever it takes. We'll let this go away. But everybody's happy. Everybody forgets about it. Everybody then goes and continues and hits play on Pinocchio. But the scary thing and the scary reality about this, and I should be more reluctant to acknowledge this, but this is what it is. Similar to those camera citations that I've seen, what you will see is a prosecutor that is going to lose the case on its merits and probably strip their ability to use these tickets on the public for the rest of time. It would create a precedent that might kill the cash cow. So what does the prosecutor do right there? They just goes, I dismiss it. We let it go. Hey, you're happy because you don't have to pay your $300. You go home and the judge doesn't make a decision that kills the cash cow. That's what you're seeing here with the Disney situation. They are going, oh, we're the good guys. We're going to let it go to court. We're going to ignore the arbitration. It's not that they're removing it. It's still there. It's still, you're blindly accepting it, but we're not going to let it go to a trial to which a precedent can be created that breaks this for the future for us. Okay, that's my diatribe. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there's a couple interesting things with this that I think call into question how they're enforcing some of these rules. So let's go on tax purposes in general. So I think Disney Plus, I think tax can be taxed a little bit differently than the parks, which is going to be a little differently than the movie studios. They're all separate companies. They're all separate LLCs. They're all separate businesses within themselves. So you sign a terms of service for one company, and that prevents you from suing another company. That just, it screams to me, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I can't.
Or you can't be such a big company that you own everything. And it's like, you can't sue me because of my apples, because I also because you bought my Band-Aids.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, you can't own everything.
They are essentially the city down there too. They are the county.
That's true, too.
Like, they're the government. So
yeah, they are.
I got to admit, Doug looks good. COVID looks good on him. He's lost some lbs that he didn't even have to lose.
A few days of relaxation can do one.
Doug's out here pretending like every day ain't relaxation.
He's got that glow about him today. I don't know what's going on.
I mean, it's just good to be back.
That's right. All right.
It's like you left to begin with. Jesus.
Dude, COVID doesn't last 24 hours anymore. You were here last Tuesday.
Oh, my God.
And then the next day, it started.
But we're in this point here where they want to have their cake and eat it too and enforce all the rules under this. But let's say this were to go to court and, okay, well, I get to sue all of Disney now, not just the parks. I'm going to sue everything. The Fox Studio, X-Men, whatever. All of them are now, all of them are liable because of this. So this judge is going to throw out that case immediately. So this just screams to me also like a Hail Mary. Some attorney saw, ooh, this is probably an open shut case. There's not a whole lot of room we have to stand on. Let's look at the terms of service of this Disney Plus. And this was a trial too. Now he might have actually bought Disney Plus and went through with that, but for a trial and the terms of service to be essentially indefinite, holy hell, that's just really concerning. And
but again, this is why they don't want you to get to a point where you are dissecting this, because once you start breaking it apart, it completely dissolves. Like this point. Okay, we as a family have Disney Plus. Who's paying for it? My dad? Okay, that means if I get in an issue with Disney, do they get to bar me? I don't have, hey, buddy, I'm not paying the bill. I don't have the contract with you. I'm not the one that a hit I accept. So I still get to sue you. Now, when it comes to a couple, does this guy get to go, wait, my wife, the dead lady, she's the one that bought it. I have a right to sue you? Or is it that I bought it so she has a right to sue you, at which point I can sue you on her behalf? Like, it's just such a convoluted web of illogic that they're like, don't touch it. That way you can't break it. What's up, Doug?
Dude, I have an even more confusing web. Ours is paid for by Verizon, who we have a phone contract with. So we never it's part of our plan. It's free. We have it. So we never really had signed up. It was part of our phone plan.
How do you go like people with the same name? And so let's say you have like a bunch of John Smiths had Disney Plus and one of them sued Disney because of a very similar situation. Are they going to look through every single John Smith? Like, oh, geez. How do you associate that? Are these companies eventually going to ask for your social security number to sign up for a streaming service so they can personally identify you, so that if you sue Warner Brothers for tripping over or slipping and falling in their lobby. Well, because you have my Mac service, you can't do it. It's nonsensical to the highest degree, and just shows this corporate sludge that we all have to walk through just to
watch Pinocchio.
And what's even the other part of this case too is they also said, hey, because you bought a ticket to Disney World, you're not allowed to sue us for gross negligence that happens within the parks.
Which is crazy, dude.
Wait, why don't
Same
we?
thing
Why don't
with
we just have a
baseball
terms of
tickets.
service?
Same thing to win an alligator eat your baby.
Or you just have a terms of service everywhere you walk, every building you go into. You have to have an employee sign your terms of service. Yep. All right. Well, you can't sue me. You can't do anything to me while I'm here, and that's now just indefinite. Why doesn't everyone have a terms of service? This is how it's just going to be ruled.
I mean, also this just comes down to like you use the magic word in torts. Like it doesn't matter if I sign anything. Gross negligence is negligence.
Yeah.
Like if I have damage and but for your action, I would not have this damage. I get to sue you for money. And it doesn't matter what ticket I bought. I mean, this comes back to there hasn't been enough direct conflict and confrontation in the legal arena with how these aren't truly contracted terms.
No.
You have snuck in terms that we have contracted for unknowingly. And when it comes to, if you were to take away all of this other contractual consideration and you just boil down contract law for what it is and what the elements you need for this to be deemed a contract, you have to show that there's a meeting of the minds and that the key essential terms are found in that contract. What are those key essential terms? You have to identify what the items are, the dollar amounts, money amounts, if it's a service. You have to have the detailed criteria that identify what is being contracted and that both parties are knowing of what it is. Us allowing corporations, I mean, what is this insane statistic that like 60% of America can't read beyond a third grade reading level? And we're going to sit here and pretend that with a 60% reading level, it is acceptable to inundate the mass with unreadable contractual material. I mean, I want you to think back to an old Jacobs Field ticket. Or, I mean, back in the old, I mean, this is, at least then, you physically handed me the contract, and yes, it was on the back of my ticket, B42, and I could read all of that, but at least it was there.
Yeah.
At least it was there, and it said, if you get hit by a baseball, you cannot sue us. Well, guess what? You should take the time while you're sipping your beer and look at it. But guess what? That is a fad. Those are gone. Paper tickets are a thing of the past.
Yeah.
And now all you have is a digital ticket. So you're telling me I put the ticket in my digital wallet and then I double click for a barcode upon entry. You scan the barcode. You're telling me in any way it's reliable that the terms of service anywhere crossed my eyeballs.
And this goes even one level deeper too of insanity. So the restaurant this couple went to wasn't even on that specific Disney park. It's in like a social.
What?
It's in a social. It's like in like a social area, like a mall. Like Disney has its own mall within property that's not ticketed. You can just walk. You can walk up in there.
Oh, wow.
And yes, the restaurant's not owned by Disney, but they do pay Disney to be
Right,
part
it's
of
leased.
part of
It's-
that
it's-
area,
yeah.
and Disney's name is on it. So there is some benefit of being associated with that company. But then this just calls into question. Well, if I walk into someone's place and some business's place and another business had an issue, well, I just can't sue anymore. I can't. And we're going to get it to a certain point. It's like, well, I do business with the federal government. So if you live anywhere within a road or street or use electricity, sorry, you can't sue us. It's in these terms of services. If you ever really try to read one, they're vague. They're never specific. This isn't like regular contract law, like you're signing a mortgage and there's very specific line items and there's very specific things everyone's agreeing to. This is just as much legal garbage as you can throw to the wall and go, well, at least we have, there's, look at this. We said it right here at line 5,535.2 says, sorry, can't sue me. For this real particular thing, it's either going to start getting so specific where they pretty much just lay out every single scenario in which you can't sue for. And it's going to be a 10-page long document. It's going to be like one of our bills we sign for infrastructure or some sort of spending. And it's just going to prevent you from doing anything that isn't just directly paying the company. Want a refund? I'm sorry. It's in our terms of service. You can't ask for a refund no matter what. We got to have a breaking point somewhere. And I hope this is it. I hope this is the final straw that broke this camel's back.
But like the truth is, as long as they continue to go, all right, fine, we'll let you go to a jury. Like as long as they keep doing that, then it never gets challenged. It never gets shot down. So like they need to do something so ridiculous. Like if you buy this ticket, you sign up to be a part of the human centipede. Like until it's something so egregious, as these corporations are smart enough to get as close to the line as they can, and then as soon as they get social backlash, they're going to completely retract and go, oh, okay, as long as you say so, because that way at least lines that they can't defeat, legal lines, as long as these lines aren't drawn, hey, whatever, we're just going to get as close to that line as possible. Ricky, what are your thoughts?
So I got a question. It's like more of a question. Like, do lawyers or firms get together anymore and like go after corporations for like BS like this?
No, you want to know why? I mean? Because the good lawyers are getting paid by those corporations to be their bark dog.
That's the first thing I thought as well. That they just be bought up. So why didn't the family just sue the restaurant? Like. And even if they do sue the restaurant, is it because
Disney pockets, dude? When you've got here's what's crazy. You're sitting in torts class, and they will I'm trying to think of the other class, but there are courses in law school that'll teach you what the restitution is for like losing a finger, losing an eye, scratching an arm, like physical damage, all the way up through losing an arm, losing your life. And again, there are dollar amounts for losing your arm to 40%, losing like your eye, vision. There is a dollar amount that losing a life is the only one that's like incredibly vague and could essentially be infinite, right?
Yeah.
The older they are, the more like, okay, because here's what you want. I don't want to get lost in the weeds, but what an attorney would do is try to show the financial potential of this person. So if they're like 14 and they'd want to show that they were academically proficient and had the opportunity to maybe live the life of a doctor or something, a high paying social person. And then you could craft the argument of what that life is worth off of that. But if they're like 65 years old and they've been grocery bag clerk their whole life, they would show the annual salary for the last 40 years. And this is roughly, he would have on average had X amount of years left. And this is roughly, so the younger they are and the more potential they would have had socially, the more money you could strip it for. But I only say that because still it is almost infinite. And so when you're in a realm where you're looking for restitution on a loss of a life, you are looking for the deepest pocket you can find. That's just what that's going. And you're looking at Disney versus, Kung Pao's Mushi. And then you're like, well, I'm going to go.
And I think the other part of it too is in order to be a restaurant on that property, you have to uphold their standards. So if you're following their standards, it probably there isn't too many strings you need to connect to go. And this is they're part negligent in this as well due to their standards. But every good lawyer is just going to go after the biggest fish they possibly can, and well, that's a pretty big fish in that area.
I like big fish. Any other thoughts?
Nah, it was just a question. That's the only question I had.
Like in class or something. This is a question. I got one.
Silent, what are your thoughts on this whole debacle?
This is just classic corporate America bullying the little person,
Amen.
and discouraging people from trying to come at them. That's literally what it is. Disney knows that whether they win or lose, it's not really going to affect their operation, but they also know that it can be used as a benchmark and a reference the next time it happens, which it probably will.
True.
So that's probably why, like you said, they want to seem like the good guy and just be like, oh, yeah, we're taking this to court because we're the good guy and we care about life. But in reality, it's like they don't. We all know that.
I love it. I love it. All right. So wrapping thoughts. I almost wanted to like rage quit for this episode. Just do a whole bit of me rage quitting because you're like, all right, they're finally going to get challenged. This is crazy. The whole world's finally going, this is crazy. Everybody see this? This is crazy. And then they're like, yeah, we're not going to do it. I promise. And it's like, no, you don't get to do that. You don't. Then it's kind of like, again, if you have a citation that might be legally vague or corrupt, and it's like, well, you don't just get to dismiss it so you could continue to keep screwing over the next little man. And I can't keep circling the same drain, but drawing a nexus between streaming movies and death at a restaurant, like those cannot be contracting for the same things. And when you are creating contracts that encompass all of that buried in legal jargon that if found, right, because it's not like I'm being handed a contract anymore. It's, I got to go to what? My account first. Wait, can't go to Disney Plus on my Apple TV. No, I got to go. I got to go to DisneyPlus.com. Then I got to go to my account. Then I got to go to settings. Then I got to go to terms of agreements. Then I got to go to, and then I got to go 10 pages in. Then I got to go to the index. Then I got to go to find the play. At what point have you committed something criminally egregious? Like if I take a Snickers bar and put it in my purse and then walk out, that is theft. If you are putting legal jargon deep in a purse, that's 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 buried underground, and you go, what do you mean you didn't see it? At what point do you get accountability? I think we all should get free Disney Plus. All of us that have been bent over based on your stuff, we should get it for free. But I don't want it for free because you keep making everybody trans. So that's that. That's my rapid thoughts. David, what do you got?
Well, I am hoping this is a start of a new movement where we just see these companies can no longer just throw that out there without some sort of accountability on the back end. But what I'm also hoping for here as well is they retracted that. They said we'll bring it to arbitration. This goes back to you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't throw that out there and then at the same time, well, I'm going to pick and choose when to actually enforce it. I
think if you choose not to enforce it, it's void. Gone.
Exactly.
Bye.
And then the next person that they sue, and now they try to use the same, like, well, trying to be like, well, you did it for this guy, so it's either shouldn't be added in that terms of service, or well, maybe we actually do need to take this to court and we need to figure this out. So I think they might have screwed the pooch here on precedent. I think they were really hoping that this would just be a nothing and just go away. I wonder how many other court cases of this similar style happened and we just didn't hear about it because no one was dumb enough to actually go, well, you signed up for a trial of Disney Plus years ago. And it's just so wild. What a fucking story.
Oh, you said
Christ almighty.
Hey, Dougie.
Hey,
You have any
Alex.
wrapping thoughts?
I think it's funny that they were openly going for almost a week now, going like, well, they said at arbitration, they signed up for it, and now they're making the U-turn. I like your argument of like, oh, well, they probably realized they don't want to take it to court because, I mean, the backlash to that comment was insane.
Wild.
But at the same time, part of me wants to believe maybe they grew a conscience and they realized that it was wrong and they should, go to court, jury of their peers. But I know that's not the case.
Hey, that is true. They did make dwarfs again. They may have a
CGI
conscience.
dwarfs, which pissed off the dwarfs even more. Peter Dinklage is just going after them, man.
Dude, what a topsy-turvy world we live in. Brian, rapid thoughts.
Yeah, I think it's pretty terrible. Terms and agreement, I don't know. They embed it so deeply, and there's just no way of like holding them accountable for doing the egregious ways that they do.
I agree. All right, so moving on to our second story here. Can you believe it? There are Mennonites making their way to the Amazon, and they're making it home. Actually, I'm going to take a little sip of water here.
You should do that. This one sounds like a doozy.
Mennonites traveling in horse-drawn carriages along the road they have built next to land being burned and cleared for agriculture near Loreto, Peru, is now being called Wonderland, Peru. After weeks of living in jungle tents, the handful of Mennonite families trying to make a new home deep in the Peruvian Amazon began to despair. Wasp attacked as they tried to clear the forest. Heavy rains turned the road to their camp into mud. Running low on supplies, some wanted to turn back. Instead, they worked harder and eventually carved out an enclave. There's a place here where I wanted to live, so we came and opened part of it up, which was recalled by Wilhelm Thyssen, a Mennonite farmer. Quote, "That's what everyone did to have this place we live in." Today, 7 years later, the cluster of homesteads is now a thriving colony called Wonderland, home to roughly 150 families, a church which doubles as a school, and a cheese processing facility. It is one of a string of Mennonite settlements that have taken root throughout the Amazon, turning forests into thriving farms, but also raising concerns among environmentalists about deforestation of a jungle already under threat from industries such as cattle ranching and illegal gold mining. Mennonite communities have come under official scrutiny, as well as including in Peru, where authorities are investigating several, accusing them of clearing forests without required permits. The colonies deny the wrongdoing. Mennonites first started migrating to Latin America from Canada about a century ago, after the country ended their exemptions from education requirements and military service. The president of Mexico at the time, Alvaro Obregón, eager to consolidate rebellious northern regions following the Mexican Revolution, gave Mennonites uncultivated land and guarantees that they could live as they wished. In subsequent decades, other Latin American countries seeking to expand their agricultural frontiers made similar invitations. Today, more than 200 Mennonite colonies in 9 countries in Latin America occupy some 9.6 million acres, an area larger than the Netherlands, where their denomination first emerged, according to a 2021 study by researchers at McGill University in Montreal. Bolivia has seen the fastest growth of any Latin American country and now has 120 Mennonite colonies, while in the past decade, a half dozen settlements, including Wonderland, have emerged in Peru, according to analysts. Mennonites have also sought land in Suriname, a small South American country rich in pristine forests, setting off protests from indigenous groups and Maroons, the descendants of enslaved people. Quote, "They're basically trying to find the last places on earth that still have these just huge, continuous areas that can support their lifestyle. And that just happens to be the forested areas in the Amazon," said Matt Feiner, a senior research specialist at Amazon Conservation, an environmental nonprofit organization. On the ground, Wonderland looks like a page from the past. Horse-drawn buggies carry passengers along dirt roads. Men in overalls toil in the fields, stretching behind simple wooden houses. There is no electricity. As night falls, families dine by candlelight after giving grace in their Dutch language, Plattdeutsche, a Germanic dialect spoken almost exclusively among Mennonites in Americas. Fragments of what was once wild lingerers, a pet monkey on a front porch, a caged parrot in one backyard shed, now is the entire Amazon and the as Amazonian rodent prized for its meat. He caught them in the forest and wants to try to breed them. Wonderland is an old colony settlement made of Mennonites who trace their history to an 18th century settlement in Ukraine. Quote, our ancestors thought that if we live far away in the countryside, there's more possibility of controlling evil, said John Buchart, an old colony farmer who now lives in this province, a colony near the Wonderland. We want to live like they did, and we want to stay unchanged. Okay, here's something that's pretty interesting, but we live in a world where it feels like there really isn't much more land to conquer. It feels like all the land's kind of accounted for. But this story kind of changes my perception on all of that. Like, clearly, there's land to be taken, but it seems like the Southern American countries were like, all right, we need an industry here. So we'll let you bring in agriculture and trade and colonies, bring people. But at some point, that's going to become the entire culture. The entire colony is going to take over. And do you think then Peru goes, wait, we want to backtrack. We've gone too far. We've lost what it is to be Peruvian. Or is what it is to be Peruvian so small, so finite that this Mennonite takeover is just a natural symptom of growth and expansion. So I find it intriguing that this is a lifestyle that is being phased out by our current culture. Like, we are building concrete roads right through you, and you better watch out because a Tesla truck is on its way. And like, make way, your buggy is moving too slow. We will let you come build a treehouse, but that's about it. You can build the deck, but even then, their culture is starting to use a little bit more power tools. Their kids are being exposed. You've got kids sneaking in iPhones or whatever, ways of accessing these. Like, there's TikTok accounts of people that are like Mennonite that are sneaking this whole deal. And it's like that's a culture that you're up against, that you are either join them or you leave. And I think, one, this is the only way they can preserve their culture in this kind of dual digital dynamic. But at the same time, is this the natural evolution of human beings? Like, is it, yeah, you can run, but you can't hide. And at some point, this is going to catch up to you, or we're going to get to that story, but you've got islanders that are just totally removed from all of existence to where they think outside people are literally aliens. And I guess, do those cultures eventually get phased out? Is that 1,000 years? Is that 1,000,000 years? Or is it never? Is it there? When we talk about lost civilizations where, the Tartaria, where there was significant sciences beyond our imagination. Could it be that existed? And when we look back and find cave people and archaic type technology, that was just a pocket of the culture, and there could have been genius cultures living at the same time. Is that a natural symptom of what it is to be human, regardless of the generation? Or does this inevitably lead to us all being cyborgs, and it's just going to take them a little bit longer, but it'll catch up to them?
I think there's some allegories here with this one.
Yeah.
Of this, let's go off your first couple points here, where the takeover of Bolivia. I don't know if I see the Mennonites and by extension the Amish as kind of a culture that takes over a place. They kind of keep to themselves. If you've ever dealt with them, they're not. I don't know. They just they stick. God and family is really kind of their big things, and they want to be self-sufficient. So they really, really just want to be left alone. So it really doesn't shock me where they decide they probably got to a point. We see electricity everywhere. We see temptation. This just isn't what we believe. We don't want to be a part of this. We're not going to protest against it. So let's just move. Let's go somewhere where the the chances of running into that are going to be a lot lower, and Bolivia's not a whole lot going on there. So if they can be self-sufficient, they can move there, and it's not like, I don't know, they're not taking over land. I'm assuming the Bolivian government kind of.
But why don't we do that, dude? Like why do you need to be a culture of rubbing sticks? Like why can't me and the Rethink Tank gang, like me, Ricky, and Silent, Doug, you might talk too much, but like we'll go to Brian. Will build the fires. Brian will just sit there and only build fires for us. But why don't we do that? Why aren't more people just like, okay, you have California being just drowned in homeless tent people. Is it either that they're lazy non-go-getters, that maybe they have a mental illness, or like, or if they are lazy, then that means they could just go make a life else. Like, here's land, make of it what you will. Find fish, find hunt, like do, make shelter, but at least now you're not on property that you will eventually get kicked out of or should be kicked out.
I don't see homelessness as necessarily a culture. They're not exactly they're not organized, they're not unionized, they're not
But I'm
they're
saying
not
take an
pulling in the
individual.
same.
Like take a couple of crackheads, three crackheads are like, we're good friends and we need land. Like, why isn't this a thing? Why is this just Mennonites grabbing life by the squeezing lemonade?
I don't think I don't think the Mennonites are just given land. You're not given land in this type of scenario. Now, do they broker a deal? Do they do something? I don't know. I don't know what the specifics are, the terms, but you don't just get 9 million acres for nothing. That doesn't
it was
happen.
A slow expansion, dude. Literally, the story is them building their own roads. Like they're in an Amazon. They don't have a road for a buggy and carriage to go through. So they make their own, and then rain hits and they're like, oh man, we're stuck here for a few days because the tires have now melted into the ground. But it's like, they built their roads. This was kind of like if we get there, it's ours deal. This is the Oregon Trail, but to the Peruvian puff pepper.
Yeah, but the government's allowing them to be there. If the government didn't want them to be there, they will not be there. They're not exactly going to fight. They're not going to fight back.
No,
what are they going to fight back with?
The government was willing to accept them because
Yeah.
they wanted expansion, they wanted development, they wanted agriculture.
Exactly, and I think that's different than that's a little bit different than the homeless analogy, because they're not. I don't see a whole lot of homeless building roads. They're not. They might be cutting down
I don't know,
trees.
man.
You never know.
Those houses and huts are pretty intense. You see those double-decker homes?
Well, the engineering on the personal side is pretty impressive, but on the public side, the shared side, not necessarily. They might build a fire, and that might be it might be a fence, might be a fire. That's about as far as they go. They're not building roads, they're not building furniture, they're not making bread. Amish cheese, good stuff. But but I think I see this as in a society that is continuing to move further and further away from what you deem to be wholly respectable and what you be around. In a way, I admire their ambition. I don't agree with it. I think it's dumb to pull away that much. But hey, you're not taking it to my street. You're building your own.
Which is pretty impressive.
I can appreciate that. It's got to be what a wild transition going from like northern United States to Bolivia. The rainforest, all the monkeys. Imagine the shit they were seeing the first couple nights they were there. All the bugs. Wild.
All right, so what language do they speak? They speak Plautdeutsch, which is a Germanic dialect. Just imagine these Mennonites with a Plautdeutsch Germanic dialect being like, and they're like, no. I'm just seeing a language barrier that would have made it not this. Okay. Silent. You guys wouldn't let them educate the way they wanted to, and you forced them out. So cruel. What are your thoughts on pushing out the Mennonites and forcing them to make lemonade?
Cold. But hey, like what you guys said, if they found their land, they found their solution, they're able to be in the rainforest and not bother anybody. So why not? Like, let them be. If that's what they choose to do, then that's what they choose to do. I think it's crazy. I think it's nuts to go from
for sure.
being in a big city to like middle of the forest. But if that's what you want to do in life, there's literally nothing stopping you. There's a lot of people that I know that do that here. Like there's a lot of very cheap rural land out in like Newfoundland and New Brunswick and Nova Scotia that you can buy like 10, 20 acres for like $10,000, and you can do the exact same thing
Right.
as these guys are doing and have your own little self-sufficient, like off the grid farm or off the grid, like 10 acres if you want. And it's very possible to do. But I think the reason why most people don't do that, it's because, you know, we're humans, we're social creatures at the end of the day. So if you isolate yourself like that in the middle of a forest in Canada or the US or the middle of the Amazon, you're probably going to start to go crazy after a few years, or maybe not. I guess there's only
That's
one
why
way
you
to
need a
find out,
critical
right?
mass of people. Like you need to. That's why these Amish families are fairly large. I mean, they're having 7, 8 children, and they live with their parents. You know, their parents live with their
Right.
grandparents. So it's
Well,
you know,
half of them are going to die from typhoid.
yeah,
Yeah.
So you have these communities of hundreds, maybe even thousands of people. You go, all right, well, I guess we're going to the rainforest. But yeah, the reason I probably don't do that in Canada, it's pretty cold up there. I'd imagine.
Yeah.
Average temperature is probably less than 40.
And now, dude, they are throwing a summer fiesta all year long.
Yeah.
Couple rainy days,
You have 2 growing
but the
seasons.
suntan is popping. Now, they are probably red, but that's okay.
Think of all the nice crops
Continue.
that you can grow with all that rain, you know?
I don't know, Ricky, are we starting a cult?
Nah, we ain't starting no cult, but we can definitely, you know, migrate somewhere. You feel me? But like, I like
We can
it. I
call
like
it
it.
the
It's not like they
retreat.
went there and
Hey.
didn't contribute to the country. The government allowed it. They need more cattle farmers, and they contributed. They created their own lane. That is great. That is what anyone should want to do. Like, you know, if you're allowed to, if you're like, and you got the resources too. Why the fuck not? I would love to definitely move to like next to a water spring somewhere, you know what I mean? In the middle of nowhere, but I still have access to the mainland. But you know, that's just wishful thinking. They did it. It took them years and hundreds of years and years and years, 100 years. What you say, a century earlier? So
Yeah.
it ain't just happened overnight.
And it takes like slaves to speed that up.
Yeah, facts. I think they want to get into that realm right there. Yeah, I don't think it would align with their religious belief. But but I like it. I like the story. I don't know why the government is trying to turn their back on them now after they've been established for generations.
They're getting too
Kind of
big.
bullshit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, ooh. Just a little
The
bit.
rabbits are growing. Slow them down.
Too big to fail.
Too big.
It's not like any of them are like. Is there like a Mennonite like high republic like in the Senate of Bolivia or wherever, Peru, wherever?
Oh, shit,
It's
that
like,
might-
are they taking over the government?
Yeah,
Or like they're not doing anything to bother anyone.
yeah, they might have enough people to be able to vote in a specific district to actually have some representation, and that
And now they're
representation-
politically worried.
Yeah,
That's okay. And
I didn't even think of that.
Isn't that what it's about? They create their own district, so they should have their own representative for that district.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We might just poked a hole in this whole thing here.
Yo, that's exactly why they're upset.
Yeah.
There's way too many of you, and you're taking. I was delicately saying they're going to take over the culture, but really, they're going to become the world.
they're
Like
taking
you
over the
will become
government.
this country. You will become. Then you will be your own sovereign nation, and you will police yourself. And before they know it, the nice Peruvian leader that let them come immigrate and develop the land is like out of a job.
How
Well,
quickly
sign
do
a
they,
treaty before it gets
militarize?
What's that?
Sign a treaty before it get hostile. Give them one representative and call it a day. You know, like get ahead of it. You know what I mean? Don't let
Yeah,
history
dude,
repeat itself.
if they play in numbers where it's just like Josiah alone has 30 kids, like that's we're cooked. We're cooked. Just have them do it like 3 times over, and that's all of Peru. So like 3 generations, and you've got your own country. So I could see that being a worry, but you wanted to benefit from their kumquats and cucumbers as they developed agriculture. Now, guess what? Now you've got a whole lot of cheese and churches everywhere. That's a you problem. Like you wanted the carrots.
And you let the devil in.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't appreciate that. But they're not watching this.
Hey, it is what it is. Do you guys have
Maybe
any
they should
last
start
thoughts?
sending back some of that cheese back to Canada, man. That's great money, you know what I mean? Mennonite cheese from Bulgaria, bro. Like that's great, you know? That's great.
You know they're sitting back saying the best thing to ever happen to us was you telling us we couldn't hold our dummies out of school. Now we're on a beach somewhere. Like we were gonna let you educate or all you had to do was let us stay out of school and just continue being dumb. And you made us go to a beach. I don't know. Any wrapping thoughts?
I think it's a very simple solution. If you don't like where you are at, what country or what city or what area, what neighborhood, there's two ways that you can deal with it. You can either A, try to fix the things that you don't like, or B, just move. And I guess they chose the second option, which seems to be working fine, and everybody seems to be happy with it. So they're not hurting
I
anybody.
guess you're right. That's the right decision to make because we aren't going backwards. The iPhone is not going back in the toothpaste tube.
It's not, exactly. And it's only like technology is going to continue to become more and more part of us as the time goes by.
Right.
Yeah. Terms of services are getting out of control. Can't get away from it. It's a problem. Yeah. I don't blame them. I don't blame them one bit.
Ricky, any wrapping thoughts?
They were welcome. They did what they're supposed to do. They conquered. They breed. And hey, why y'all bothering these people now, man? Let them live. Let them live.
My wrapping thought is I just hope you guys ever see the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Yeah.
Where like he goes and gets the Oompa Loompas and they're like in these giant tree houses in the Amazon and they're all connected and it's this like giant tree world.
Yeah.
That's what I hope they build. Just like as somebody that had Amish people build me the coolest tree house, I want to live in a world where we roll up on these dirt, muddy roads into the Peruvian lands to find Wonderland, where they're just like a bunch of Peter Pan lost children running through the trees with giant beards and Josiahs everywhere. That's my vision. And I hope they take over the Peruvian government. That's what you get for letting in roaches. What do you got?
Oh my God. Yeah, that visual. So I still don't. I don't think there's too much worry here. I know the government might be a little concerned with some representation, but I don't know. They really keep to themselves. This isn't. You don't hear of Amish causing problems. It isn't really a big deal here. I think in our area we experience more Amish than most across the country. So. Again, if they want to do that and they got permission from the government to go do it, I'm not against it at all. And it is a little admirable. I do appreciate it. I think it's pretty cool, all things considered.
Brian, wrapping thoughts.
Yeah, I've been thinking about what would Rumspringa look like. I mean, you really painted a picture.
Running with sticks through the woods.
You really painted a picture with the Oompa Loompas up in the tree. I think that would be pretty close to what Rumspringa is going to be for them. And I hope they do continue to make their Amish butter cheese because those Peruvians have been missing out.
Hold up. Time out. We've been talking a lot about Mennonite cheese, Mennonite butter. What are they milking in the Amazon?
Well, they brought their cows with them. They got cows over there.
They're just like grabbing tigers, like, get over here.
But didn't the government give them like a starter pack or something?
Maybe, yeah, maybe. Government's like 10 goats, 10 cows, 10 sheep. Yep.
Now they got a whole mountain of goats and cows.
Rooster animals.
Damn it, I got the white sheep. I wanted the black one.
The Farmville starter pack. Yeehaw! All right, let's dive into this last topic here. This is a fascinating topic, and I imagine we're introducing this to you for the first time. We discovered it today, and I can't get over how interesting of this is. One, there's a lot of philosophical dialogue that can be had about just human existence and isolation, the allegory of the cave and whatnot, but then also just the silliness of it all. So there is an island tribe in the Pacific that worships Americans like their gods, And it's an interesting one. So first, let's start with the clip that explains it all.
Did you know that there's a tribe in the Pacific that basically worships Americans as gods? And this includes building their version of radio telescopes as well as goggles in order to get us back. This whole thing started back in the 1930s, where American soldiers briefly occupied their island, and from their point of view, we had alien-like technologies such as flying machines as well as talking boxes. This eventually started a movement on these islands called the Cargo Cult that involves a worship of a man called John Frum, and he's often described as a godlike figure who is also the King of America. And many speculate that the name actually came from an American GI who ended up handing candy as well as other things to these tribes. He was simply saying that he was John from Alaska or Virginia, and that was all these tribe members were able to pick up. Nevertheless, John Frum became a celebrated figure on these islands, with his holiday on February 15th of each year, and tribes will pay tribute to him by marching on this day of every single year with jeans on, as well as USA painted on their back or chest. Many of the elders on this island wear American uniforms as well as medals that were left behind. Even today, the Cargo Cult is still alive in some of these Pacific islands, and they simply want John Frum to deliver dozens of cargoes to their island in order to solve all of their problems.
So the funny aspect of this whole thing is American military lands on this Pacific island, and they're marching with what seems to be stolen technology. Their belief is that they did these dances with these sticks all in lockstep, the military march, and that is what had caused the aliens to drop them these cargo drops, right? And so now they have painted these sticks, and once a year they do this ceremonial march in the hope that these alien gods will also drop them the cargo from the. So they're this cargo cult. One, it's a whole allegory, right? So you've got this isolated group it is so isolated from the world and its developments that when exposed to outside the cave, it's almost unbelievable that they were in a cave to begin with. And because of that, everything, the explanations of the very real and explainable world around them becomes mystical and fantastical. So they have this guy, John Frum, and who knows what he said, John from America, John from Ohio, John from wherever. And they call him John Frum, and they pray that one day John Frum will come back and save them all and bring back the good cargo. So before I kind of dissect it further, what are your thoughts, Steven?
So we always hear about these stories of isolated tribes. Some are wildly violent. They won't let you go anywhere near them. This one is, boy, this one's odd. I'm glad we were discussing this one today, because it is wild. As they're painting USA,
right?
They're marching, they're baking fake
we can't
satellite
even get
dishes.
It's racist for our own citizens to do that. Like it's racist to have any inkling, or just hateful to have any inkling of patriotism. And then there's this random island that's just like America,
and it wild. I can't. The one thing they're missing is the American flags using as capes or like robes, like the Olympians use when they win. So this is just funny. And they were using, I think we saw some like modern jeans.
Right.
Do you think there's someone out there that's just continuing the facades? Like, all right, we're going to drop them. We're just going to drop them.
Okay. Time out. Great question. I love where your head's at. Fun to dissect. I would like to believe. I show the sweatshirt one more time. When we are led by such an evil entity, so corrupt and evil, I really hope there's like one person in there that has a sense of humor. Like, if you're going to steal half a paycheck every 2 weeks and you've got a bucket of money that is so insane, and like 80% of it is being paid to your other evil cronies. Like, you and all your homies are pretty much robbing us blind and pushing all of the violence and problems across the globe. I really hope you take like $10,000 of that insanely infinite budget just to like screw with the island people that just are totally isolated from the world. You're just like, drop a cargo. It's February 15th or whatever. Keep them going. And it's just more jeans. They're like, oh my God, John Frum knew exactly what I wanted for Christmas this year.
I could half see like a football team, like an NFL team, just throwing.
Yes.
Just like the Dallas Cowboys.
Just
throwing-
Gronk. Just
oh.
Gronk. Gronk's got the play money. He learns about the store and he's like, oh my God. Get the biggest box of Levi's you can find. I mean, come on.
Drop it.
What's the guy? Brett Favre. Brett Favre. Come on.
Oh.
You get that shit for free. You should be dropping buckets of those.
What a great Wrangler ad. We're helping spread Americana across the world.
What's the one, Ricky? Ricky, bring some culture in here for us. What's the one with the horseshoe on the butt?
Oh, True Religion.
See,
Come
there
on,
you
bro.
go. That's what they need. They need style. They need to look good.
Some
in them
Levi's,
jeans.
True Religion, Wranglers. You know what I mean? Get them some
Snap
good
bottoms.
stuff, bro. Some stuff that
Yeah, apple
that
bottom
hump the
jeans,
boots.
even maybe some boots.
I think they
Get
like
the
Oh, yeah,
fur.
yeah.
the fur.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts of this whole scene?
So, Silent, you go for it, Silent. Go ahead.
It's honestly fascinating how, like, imagine how life-changing that is to literally watch something that you've never seen, like a plane drop like goods like that, like jeans and military stuff. And I can't even imagine, like,
And
it's
candy.
probably
Oh, yeah,
probably
giant
how a lot of ancient people, the whole, we don't want to get too deep down this rabbit hole, but the whole, how the pyramids were built, or how like certain technologies were acquired,
Right?
and things like that happened, because to these people, they have no clue how anybody flew down to that island, because they probably ended up there on some like raft like thousands of years ago, and they've just been self-sufficient and isolated. And then all of a sudden this plane just crashes their party and is like, hey guys, we got some jeans.
And they're like, oh my God, dancing with your painted bamboo is what did that. And it's like, your
Right.
bamboo is not the same as an AK-47, but you have no clue.
Right. And I can't even imagine like watching people rhythmically march while like shifting their
Yes.
weapons and spinning and doing all that. Like they probably thought that was like so alien and robotic to them, because they probably never ever seen anything like that before. So I totally understand why they're worshiping this person, whoever, John, whatever. And it makes total sense, because if I was living on an island, I'd probably worship him too.
Well, you know what this also reminds me of? That one story where they gave the internet to a isolated tribe over in Africa.
Oh my gosh, that most recent story.
And they got a little addicted to women on the internet. I wonder how
Yeah.
quickly you can get this tribe. Just all right. Here's some here's some
Fairly
pinup
quickly, I can
dolls.
imagine.
See what you think about them.
So, with that being said, this isn't a big topic, but I'm still curious about it. You show up to an island of a tribe that has their own like made up language, right? But you have no overlap. You have zero overlap in understanding, in resources, tools. Like if I don't speak Chinese, but if I showed up in China and pointed at a pencil, we'd both know, okay, whatever the word is, we're talking about a pencil. And if I know what a pencil is and you think it's a stick, like, how does John Frum in any way communicate when there's not even a common sense of goods? That, like, there's nothing to ground yourself on.
Yeah.
Clothes. What's clothes? I mean, they've got a leaf. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's like they're building a satellite dish. So at some point, this must have been like a base during like World War II or during the Cold War or something like that. And they must have just taken it with them. They're like, oh well, we're just gonna replicate this. So you saw a plane. Then the plane, I think, is trying to go downhill. They're trying to create flight as if they were the Wright brothers.
No. See, even that's what's funny. You're giving them too much credit. I wish I had the ability to show you even more of that. That clip is a very long dirt runway along it's the crest of a mountain. All right. So they've shaved off the tip crest of a mountain, and it's this very long dirt runway, and they have built a plane watchtower at one end so you could climb up into it, and they've got like wooden binoculars and stuff, and then at the other end is a wooden plane that is immobile. And in the documentary, it talks about how they believe that the wooden plane is going to attract other planes and bring it to land on their runway.
That's not. So you were giving too much credit. I don't know. That's a little intelligent. They're putting pieces together. I think they're still a little smarter than I think we give them credit for.
Sure.
They don't quite have all the. They don't quite understand everything and how it works, but I think they have enough grasp of it. You know, you're flying over there like, oh my God, there's some plane. What's going on over here? That might have been how that documentary crew found him.
Oh,
Because this looks a little remote for them over there.
you're right.
But it's wild. There's still tribes. There's
Right.
still groups of people that just have no idea what's going on outside the world. Like this must have been centuries of history. They've just been there, and this is their life. They know nothing of World War II, Cold War, internet, nothing. They didn't even know the Cubs won in 2016. They didn't know about the curse. And now they're preaching. This is like a religious thing. I absolutely seeing this now. I absolutely see how like the pyramids and like some of these other ancient religions, you can kind of put two and two together and say, ooh, this looks a little different. This is you can see it might have just been one singular event, and that was just so transcendent to those to like that culture. All of a sudden now we got to build monuments for it. We're trying to attract them. Were the pyramids something to attract? I don't want to get I'm not the conspiracy theorist like I think some people are in this room, but definitely there is. I think there's something to be said about how some of these, when you don't know any better, you try to kind of replicate what you've seen before.
I can very much appreciate that. So before I get into my wrapping thoughts, I want to toss it. What's up, Brian? What you got?
I'm wondering, like, all right, so they got this footage of these people marching and stuff. Well, what about the camera crew and stuff that were there filming? At some point, did someone go, "Hey, but what are you people like?
Yeah,
Scott,
what are you?
Yeah, like, what are you related to them? Do
What's
you know
that
John?"
box on your shoulder? Like, again, a giant movie camera in the Amazon is going to stand out. Like, now you've got this giant box. That's a great point, Brian, because one thing that I just kind of gloss over, when you're trying to put together the intro bit, I don't have the time to really even reflect on the fact that the lady's interviewing them. Like, they're translating what they say. So along the bottom are subtitles of what they're saying. But then also, like, you're looking at a culture that is totally removed from. Brian's got a great point. Like, why is it not standing out to them that, wait, you've got a camera, and wait, why are you doing a documentary about us? Like, you're asking me about John Frum, and you're obsessed with the USA Day. Do you know something about that? And then you would think she looks at him and goes, yeah, listen, there's a giant civilization out there, and that's just commonplace. If you come join us, we'll show you like New York City and planes and everything else. And I just feel like comes back to the allegory of the cave. No matter how much you try to make people understand that there's a world outside the cave, sometimes that's so much of their existence, it's unfathomable. You could show it to them and they still can't digest it. So maybe that's what's going on, is like, listen, it's kind of like an observer filming, an animal, like an elephant or something, because no matter how much we try to tell the animal, listen, you're just an elephant in in the savannah. Like, they're not going to compute that. They don't. What's the savannah to an elephant? Like, they don't understand moon, space, countries, oceans. Like, to them, those are non-concepts. You couldn't even begin to explain them. So I don't know. It's one of two things. Either they can't digest it no matter how much you try to explain it to them, or they are slowly waking up to it. But it's probably some in the culture, and most still are oblivious.
Well, do we know if this is the 100% of that culture on that island,
Right.
or is it just like 100 people who just worship this thing, and everyone else is wise to it, and going, "What are you doing? What are you doing? These guys have been here all the time. They're documenting stuff. I don't know. Are they putting on a show just for it? Because you think if they're so mesmerized by a satellite dish that seeing a video camera in which you could see yourself, because I'm assuming they don't have mirrors. I don't know where, like, mirrors aren't exactly an easy thing to come by just naturally in the wild. So you see yourself act out, and that just blow your mind to a certain point. Like, oh, what am I putting USA on my chest?
To
for?
me, I think the bigger takeaway is, in a world where there isn't a 7-Eleven for you to go buy more peanut M&Ms, when you are given it once every 10 years, you will do any backflip, dance, dress, whatever to get another bag of damn peanut M&Ms. I will. Hey, you are not you without a Snickers. So for 10 years, they're Karen. And then for 10 minutes, they be popping. And you will dance for a Snickers.
What would you do for a Klondike?
That's what I'm saying, man. And if the flying boxes from the sky come with just a couple M&Ms, I'm doing any jig that makes it happen again. All right, rapping thoughts. Let's bring in the gang. Silent, Ricky, what are your rapping thoughts?
My first thought is like, where's the ladies? Like, how are they born? Where's the ladies? So that goes into what David said. Maybe it's just
How are
this
they
ice,
born?
like this. What David said, like,
The
stork, maybe
damn it,
just them.
from the sky gods.
Oh my God. Maybe it's just them on the island that does this, you know what I mean? And the other thing is, maybe when you go back, you have directors and editors and stuff doing what they saw the guys came filming them doing, acting out what they're doing. Maybe it's a whole cycle of just learning little by little. And one more point. Maybe the Rethink thanked me to find this tribe and take a trip.
Oh, wouldn't that be?
Send some shirts.
That'd be a good live stream.
Oh my God! Could you imagine they're
I can't.
marching in Not Afraid to Rethink shirts and jeans, just lockstep.
Oh man.
Oh
We'll
man!
be on the
Or
New
no,
York Times, bro.
Joe Biden Frax T-shirts. Let's bring those ones
that
back.
would
Joe
be-
Biden Frax T-shirts marching through the Amazon.
Oh,
Or
man.
no, Pacific Islands. See, now I'm confusing topics. Silent rapping thoughts. What do you think?
Yeah, I think the world is probably full of so many of these kinds of civilizations. We just probably haven't discovered them yet because they're out there somewhere in the middle of the Pacific or somewhere like south of like Argentina or whatever. And they
They're
just
getting
haven't.
poked with sticks by Mennonites.
Yeah, they just haven't been contacted by anybody probably ever, and they've probably been there for centuries. And I think it's probably wild to just imagine, because like, think if you went back in time not that long ago to like the 70s or the 60s, and you hold up your phone and you say to the person, in this box here, I have the entire knowledge of the whole world that can be searched to you in 1 second. If I told you that, would you believe me? And probably most of them would think you're crazy and that you're out of your mind, right?
Oh yeah.
And so I can imagine probably why a lot of people don't go out and explore a lot of these islands. It's probably because it's better off to just leave them alone, because they've clearly been self-sufficient for a long, long time, you know? Otherwise, they will probably try to worship you just like they did John, because it makes total sense. If you come in there and you bring all the goods and, you know, they've never seen anything like that before, they're probably going to worship you as well. So I completely understand that. And I think like my theory at least is this is just like the tip of the iceberg. There's probably hundreds, if not thousands of these kinds of islands. And they're just like out there waiting to be, you know, explored.
I cannot wait for a statue made of Alex Fry.
Also, also a tribe got revealed like 2 weeks ago. An uncharted tribe got discovered 2 weeks ago off of Brazil. So
Yeah. That's what I
it's-
mean.
Whoa.
Mhm.
It's
They're all over the world. They really are. And that's the thing. It's just up to people to, are you willing to just go where nobody else has went and talk to these people or not? And most people aren't. So
Because again, it's a huge risk. I mean,
it
is
is
it worth
massive. Yeah,
that
massive, of course.
investigation? Because here's the truth. That this is why those remain unbreached. What do you possibly have to gain by breaching that contact? You are not going to find an Einstein that brings you the cure for cancer. So
Exactly.
if there's a higher likelihood that because this is like, rewind to the beginning of time, the relationship between tribes has always been the conflict of, you have no value to me and my tribe other than your resources, your women, your goods, whatever. So they come in, and if you show up, 80% of the time, it's going to innately result in conflict. They are going to want to kill you, eat you, at least scare you away.
Yeah.
In the rarest chance you have M&Ms and jeans, and it entices them. Like, you could probably have jeans and M&Ms. You just had, like, I don't know if they have coca leaves or chewing on, something that made the guy extra hungry, but he happened to entice the right fella in the right tribe. Like, he didn't get breached by like 25 dudes. If not, he's hung upside down and dinner that night. But he found the right fella to give one Snicker bar, one Reese's to unite them all. And then this guy comes running to the tribe like, oh my God, try this white man's candy. This magic stuff will break your mind. And then he also bestowed upon them jeans. Like, that is the rarest of occasions. And 80% of the time, your head is on a pike and dinner. So they remain untouched because there's zero benefit from touching. Like, except, like, this is kind of, it gets to the theory of, like, what would it, if aliens found us, what value would we have for them? There's some theories that say maybe they've compelled us to chase gold and we're mining gold for them. Some people also believe, and this is kind of in the vein of what we're talking about, that they have discovered us. And it was because a lot of the alien activity has occurred around the time of the nuclear bombs. And that's why Joe Rogan's mothership, the 2 stages are named after the 2 nuclear bombs, because there's a theory that after such a nuclear blast, it sent a notification through the space fabric, and aliens have come to try to control or monitor us from killing ourselves, or at the very least, it's kind of like when we come across an animal civilization that we, research for science. We could just be a scientific experiment. So, not to go down the craziest of rabbit holes, but I just throw it out there because the only value they could possibly possess is research and an observation from afar. Like, intervention is never going to be what's valuable. What are your rapid thoughts?
No, I probably along the lines of that. And the unfortunate part too is the more we know about these civilizations, the more we know about these tribes, the more they know about us, and we start corrupting them more. So they know more about the outside world. And does that inherently make the tribe worse? Because, well, they're no longer, their way of thinking, their way of doing things. There's like an ignorance is bliss conversation there, where they're just better off not knowing we exist, because they're fine just living day by day, doing whatever. Now there's a whole other world out there, and there's probably a few of them that's just crushes. Oh, they have planes, they have these ships, they have all sorts of these different things, and I'm so small compared to them, and you just don't, like, they're taking it all through like a fire hose, where we either grew up with it or you just kind of instinctually knew about it. This one, like, does this ruin the tribe? Does this absolutely just ruin the tribe? And their days are numbered now, because we found them and they know about us, versus, they encountered us way long ago, and now they're just, they're worshiping that particular day, versus we'll wait till the next camera crew to come down and show them what next USA thing we got going on. Ooh, it's like we're playing God when we don't really think about it.
It's just funny. Megan Rapinoe can complain about every inch of this country, and these people are marching in like godlike praise.
Hey,
It's just
Propaganda
an
knows
interesting
no
world.
bounds.
Brian, wrapping thoughts.
Yeah, the thing that I was gonna say about the making contact is scientific research to see like taking their blood. Maybe they'll call us vampires for that, but you know, just like trying to see like what their diet is and how they live and how if they figured out some kind of herbalistic cure for anything, that would be nice to know. How they would react to drones, like
Oh yeah.
like you have like video cameras that are up in the sky now, and you're just kind of creeping around their tribes, their little huts and stuff.
Dude, I have it filed away for our Rethink Actions channel where we react to funny videos online to get a little break from all the politics and stuff. And there is a hilarious video of these kids in a tribe that have never seen a drone before. And a drone just comes in. And like, again, you are seeing a face of fear you really can't even imagine. It's so natural. And this thing starts chasing the kid down the streets of this like third world country. And again, we're talking about countries that probably have also seen bombs. So it's just like no good can come from whatever the hell this is chasing me. And here we are, just terrible people laughing at this poor kid's pain. But it is a pretty funny video. Anyway, we appreciate you guys joining us. The whole purpose of the live show is to get you involved. So beyond all of the sexual love and praise for Silent Destroyer, it was great getting all of the comments to add an extra layer and dynamic to the dialogue here. So thank you to everybody that dove into the comments. Let's bring in the pickle gallery so they can tell us where to find them. Silent, first we'll start with you because obviously there's a lot of lust there. Tell the folks where they can find you.
Kick.com/Silent Destroyer. I'm live every single day.
Hey, love it, love it. Ricky, how about you, my good friend?
Hey man, just another day TV everywhere. The right way, personal, funny stories, but like, hey, we coming up. We almost off season, y'all. Hey, content about to be on spice. It's coming up, y'all.
Moving on up. So love that. Love the pickle gallery. That all being said, guys, we go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. We also have a live show, like I said, Rethink Actions. So if you want to, it's our reactions channel. So if you need to get a little break, a little palate cleanser, wake up, have a cup of coffee with us and get a break. Cool things are coming with that show and our Sundays. I got a development for a football show. We're going to be bringing in just, give you a little cutting edge for leading into your fantasy league. So if there's reminders of when people are out and you need to kind of get what's cutting edge of the week and just funny antics going on in the NFL and football for the week. So things coming. And with all of the swirl of different content, you can find it all in one central place, and that's at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. The live shows stream on all of your wherever you get podcasts, so you can find everything. But like I said, we go live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So otherwise, guys, we'll catch you next week. Peace.